Hello, this is JG Vibes of Alchemy of the Modern Renaissance and the Voluntary Hippie Podcast. And today I'm going to discuss a frequently made error on the part of people who defend the violence of statism. So if you, like myself, have come to the logical conclusion that the initiation of force, fraud, or coercion is morally unjustified in all situations except for self-defense, then you have without a doubt been told repeatedly by your peers that in a state of freedom, human beings would revert to this Mad Max and the Thunderdome lifestyle, constantly fighting and pillaging one another instead of cooperating mutually in beneficial exchanges. First off, I want to make the point that this is all complete fantasy. If you think about it, where do these ideas come from? Most of them come from propaganda and fictional stories. There's no historical precedent whatsoever for any of this because a state has never been deconstructed with the concept of self-ownership and non-aggression in mind. People have not come to this conclusion because they have any kind of evidence or because they have witnessed a voluntary society descend into chaos, because a voluntary society has never existed. People like to throw around Somalia like that is supposed to be some sort of example of a stateless society, when in reality it is probably one of the most statist places on earth. As many of you already know, statism exists in a situation where human beings use violence to solve their problems, or any kind of justified violence in their interactions. The organization of government obviously falls into this category, but it is not the only organization that can carry these attributes. So while Somalia may not have an official government with buildings and legislations and bureaucracy, there are still groups of people imposing their will on others through the use of force. Therefore, it is totally incorrect to associate Somalia with anarchism or voluntarism in any way, because they have not philosophically accepted the non-aggression principle and the axiom of self-ownership. So, now that we covered that, let's talk about these warlords and roaming gangs that would apparently take over if the world were to move towards a voluntary society. The first thing that I would like to mention is that these gangs already exist in our society today, and they are actually far more threatening than any Mad Max warlord. These gangs are called the police. Before you become shocked and appalled, let's think about this for a minute. Who else spends their days kidnapping and robbing people at gunpoint? The police, of course. There are private criminals out there, but at least we are allowed to shoot back at them in self-defense. And in a voluntary society, we would have this same freedom to defend ourselves against anyone who violated our safety and property. And today, we do not have those rights because the people that violate our safety and property most consistently we're not allowed to fight back against. And we don't have that freedom today, because if I'm driving down the street and my registration isn't up to code, or if I have the wrong plant in my car, or if I'm breaking any one of the pointless commands that are handed down by the establishment, there is a good chance that I will be forcibly removed from my vehicle, kidnapped, and placed in a cage for an untold amount of time, and eventually robbed over the course of months or years. These are the smartest and most elaborate muggers on the face of the earth, and the whole reason that they are able to get away with this is because the majority of the people out there are totally convinced that this is the only way imaginable that we can provide for the public safety. The only problem here is that the defense agencies set up by government, both police and military, are monopolies, which are enforced by violence. So this means that they are the only organizations that are allowed to even attempt to provide for the public service, or this specific public service, sorry. And for anyone else that tries to provide that public service, they will be met with violence. So this leads to the inevitable abuse of power that we see today. With that being said, the argument that we cannot strive for a free society because warlords and gangs would take over is totally invalid, because the warlords and gangs are already in control. and there is no way that you can even say that worse gangs would replace them in a free society, because then at least everyone would be on equal ground, and you would actually have the freedom to fight back against someone who wished to violate your safety or your property. This freedom to stand up for yourself is one of the things that lead people to all this all against all imagery. But as we see with private gun ownership, people become less tempting targets for predators when there is a possibility that they might fight back. Just because you have a situation where somebody is obedient does not mean you have a situation of peace. Sometimes the most violent and chaotic situations are where there is no physical violence taking place, but there is just a threat of violence and coercion. For more information on this perspective and to check out podcasts and other videos, visit aotmr.com. There you can also find more information about my book, Alchemy of the Modern Renaissance. This is JG Vibes. Peace, love, unity, respect, and voluntarism.